Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. Brand new video for you guys to discuss today. We got a 4-game slate in association. I got a stud 5 and a value 5 for you guys. But before I get started, like always, guys, I appreciate you guys drop a like on the video. It helps my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, it's the first time you're stumbling in and you want to be able to get your NBA as well as NFL lineup advice videos on a regular basis, make sure you become a DFS Zone community member by just subscribing down below and making sure that you put on your post notifications, that little bell icon. Make sure you turn that on. This way you don't miss out on any of my NFL or NBA lineup advice videos. With that being said, today is Thursday, October the 25th, 2018. We have a 4-game slate in the association. And stud 5, going to give you one play per position like I normally do. So at point guard, we're looking at right away, we got Russell Westbrook. He had a massive game the other day coming back. I expect him to still continue to be Russell Westbrook. I'm going to actually fade him on most of my lineups today. I do believe I will have some exposure to him, okay? There's no doubt about it. He's one of the best players on the planet. He's going to be in a position where he's going to have to put some points up on the board, but I'm not still willing to pay $12,500 for him. You need about 62, 63 to cover that price. That is pretty high, so I'm going to bypass him. He'll probably be on one lineup of mine. I usually do about 6 or 7 lineups per night on both DK and as well as on Fanduel. So tonight I think I will be passing on him on it and just utilizing him on just one lineup. But the first guy I think is a stud tonight. There's a couple guys that I like. I mean, I like Kyrie Irving today. Definitely love Jamal Murray here as well. But I'm going to go with D. Lil in Orlando, Damian Lillard, and take a stab at him. 9,800 is still a little pricey. Okay, you need from Damian Lillard, you need pretty much 48 to cover that price. On DK, he's 8,700, so you need 43 there. But, you know, he is Damian Lillard. He's one of the best players in the league. 28.7 points per game thus far this year in just 3 outings. 5.3 rebounds, 7 assists. He's averaging pretty much 46 fantasy points per game. And like I said, you need about 48. So that's actually about 2 points higher to pay this price. But I think he has the upside to do it. We know he can definitely get you 50 or better any given night. But his shots got to go down. So far this year, all these games were at home, so my only concern is that he has played well at home. We don't know how he's going to play on the road. Last year, he definitely stumbled a lot of times on the road. Definitely let me down a number of times last year on the road. This particular matchup, Orlando coming in, they've been pretty good so far this year as far as holding opponents down. They're only giving up 106 points per game to the opposition, but then again, they have not faced someone like Portland, who is right now playing a really high-paced game. They're scoring 124.3 points per game right now. So the Portland Trailblazers are just blazing. But again, back to Damian Lillard. I mean, 40, 30, 35. I mean, he's putting up 28 to 29 points from the floor every single game so far this year. And obviously, he sometimes fills up the stat sheet. He can rebound, he can assist, and an occasional once in a while he'd defend a little bit and get a couple of steals and blocks. But his numbers have been fantastic: 48, 44, and 44. We go over to the cruncher and we go over to Mr. Lillard, and usage rate, this is where I check his usage rate, 27, 28%. Absolutely fantastic. Look at the shots, 21 from the floor. This is where he stumbles. Sometimes he takes a lot of shots, and it's just his field goal percentage is not as well as it should be. This is 7 out of 21, so that's a poor shooting night nonetheless. And he took 10 shots from 3, only hit 2. So he was really at 20% there. Really a rough night. But when he does these things like this and he still gets to the foul line, that's when it's impressive, because now he got 15 shots from the foul line and he hit 13. And then he was able to still go and get 8 rebounds and 8 assists. He does turn over the ball quite a bit. That's something that he normally does. But sometimes, like I said, as long as his shots are going down, he's getting to the foul line, he's getting the points in other areas like steals, okay, as well as scoring, he's going to definitely give us enough fantasy points to cover. So I think he's in a good matchup here. Orlando hasn't really faced anybody like him as of yet. They did give up 36 to Dragic, 36 to pretty much Kemba Walker, and Kyrie Irving put up a 44 spot against him. So I think D. Lil is definitely in a good spot here. As far as fantasy points, 31.7 thus far this year to point guards this year. So they have had their little struggles there. And like I said, they've given up, 35 plus pretty much to 3 pretty decent guards. 2 of them are like all-stars if you consider Irving and Kemba Walker. So again, D. Lil in a really good spot here. I definitely like Mr. Lillard as the stud for point guard. Point guard value for me, I took him the other night. He came out and he did well. I'm gonna go back to the well on him again. Ish Smith. I mean, he's just getting sufficient amount of minutes. He played 32 minutes the other day when I recommended him. He put up 21 floor points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 1 block, 29.7 fantasy points. He's been at about 27, pretty much average over the last 2 games, and his average for the season thus far is about 23. So he's been obviously exceeding value over the last 2 games. 15.7 floor points is absolutely really good for a guy that comes off the bench. He's sharing the time with Reggie Jackson, and I would not be at all opposed, and I may even put him in if I feel so. I've done it before. A good strategy is utilizing 2 point guards that definitely share their time, but definitely both contribute to the team offensively. With Ish Smith and Reggie Jackson, you could possibly put them in the same lineup and be your 2 guards for the day in a 4-game slate like this, and it may benefit you because it'll probably pay off the same amount as paying up for 9 or 10 or even 11 grand for a stud player somewhere else. They may get you enough. Between the both of them, you may get 60 or more fantasy points. So there's just something to consider there. But Ish Smith is in play for me with the numbers that he's put up. We come over here to the cruncher. And like I said, his usage rate is not going to be extremely high, but when he's on the floor for the amount of minutes he plays, this is not too bad for a guy who's coming off the bench, and it's actually spelling relief for Reggie Jackson, who's doing pretty much the same. He's getting 15, 16 shots, 5 from 3 and 11 from the floor. He did the same here the game previous, 11 shots and 3 threes. It's a total of 14 shots. When you're getting at least some shots, and the beauty of him is that he does other things. He could definitely defend a little bit, gets his occasional steals. He definitely passes the ball, and he's willing to get rebounds. So he does a little bit of everything. For 5,100, you need him to get pretty much 25. And I think that he's capable of getting a 25. He has 30-plus upside in this spot. On DK, he's 4,400, so you need about 22 there. I think he's definitely a viable play on both platforms, either if you play on DK or on Fanduel. I will have some exposure to him on both. And when you think about he's going up against Cleveland. Cleveland is on the front end of a back-to-back tonight. They just played last night. They got their butts kicked. I had 3 Cleveland Cavaliers. They let me down. It was definitely a bad night for me as far as GPP play is concerned. But nonetheless, they have been allowing 120.5 points per game to the opposition, the Cavaliers. And Cavaliers against point guards, the point guards have been putting up 37.8, pretty much 38 fantasy points per game thus far after 3 or 4 games. So again, I like the whole situation. Russell of the Brooklyn Nets put up 30 against them. Trae Young, the rookie, put up 56 against this team. And Kyle Lowry, which of course these are very, very high level players, put up 43. But I think there's wiggle room there for Mr. Ish Smith to put up 25, maybe even 30 if they gave up that many to those guys. So I definitely like those 2 guys there in play as far as a stud 5 point guard and a value 5. I like those 2 guys that I have there. As shooting guard, definitely like Gary Harris here in this spot, man. Mr. Harris, considering I was on Hart last night and he let me down, I'm sure he's going to be someone that he's not going to be as targeted tonight because of the bad game last night. He didn't have to play a whole lot of minutes. I think he's going to be someone I'm still going to target, but he's not one of my core guys today. But Gary Harris, I definitely like here. Good defender, good scorer. He is an integral part of the Denver Nuggets' success as far as offensively. They definitely need him to play well. 21 points, 3.5 rebounds a game, 3 assists, 34.5 fantasy points per game thus far this year, pretty much almost 35. At 7,100, you need about 35 to cover that. And on DK, he's 6,500. You pretty much need 32, 33 there to have 5X on him. I think he's in a good spot, man. I think he could definitely get the points here. He's averaging 18 and 28, 18 and 20. Pretty much he's been putting up some pretty solid floor points, and the minutes have been okay. 26 minutes the other day. I'm not concerned with that. I think he's going to definitely be back up to about the 30-plus mark today. But nonetheless, in 26 minutes, he put up 18 floor points, and he put up 31 fantasy points. I mean, so more than 1 fantasy point per minute. You cannot go wrong. Obviously, we want more minutes from a Gary Harris. And if he does that, as you can see, he has 40-point upside. We go over here to the cruncher, and we look at Mr. Harris a little bit further, and like I said, those minutes are fantastic. Look at the usage when he's on the court, 28% in this game here. Took 20 shots from the floor, 9 from 3, and here he had 12 shots from the floor and 4 from 3, total of 16 and a total of 29 in the last few games. So obviously the shots are there, the minutes are there, the usage rate is there. And the beauty of it is he's a pretty good defender, so you get all the added bonuses of someone who can score and is one of the integral parts of an offensive team's rotation, but at the same time is capable of putting up some extra fantasy points with steals and blocks. As you can see here, he is known for that. He's a pretty good defender. He's probably one of the better, maybe the top 5 or 6 defending shooting guards in the league. So Gary Harris definitely in play for me, man. And against the Lakers, in the preseason he didn't play, but last year 40, 34, he had some decent games. He played massive minutes. He had the usage rate was pretty good, a little choppy in 1 or 2 games, but he was getting his shots. So I like the whole matchup, man. And the Lakers, as we spoke about before, giving up massive amount of points. 45.7 fantasy points per game given up right now, the Lakers, 2 shooting guards. DeRozan put up 63 on them. Harden put 55. I mean, that is crazy. Last night, Devin Booker, who I had as my main guy, pulled up lame, I think, in the third quarter with a hamstring, didn't play anymore. He would have probably put up 50. He had 37.9, pretty much a 38 spot in 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, let's put it. But again, very, very good spot for Mr. Gary Harris. I definitely love him here in this spot. As far as value here, Nik Stauskas is the next guy I like. If I can find him, there you go, Stauskas. He's been pretty good, man. He's been pretty good. 14 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, pretty much close to 4 rebounds and 3 assists, 24.7 fantasy points, 4,300. You pretty much need 22 from him there. And on DK, he is 4,000 on the nose. You need 20. And those numbers are both below what he's averaging. And when you see stuff like that, you got to give it a second look. So 25 pretty much from him there. And he put up 30 in the last game, and he has done 30 twice out of the 3 games. He's playing more than enough minutes. Little down here, 20 minutes in this second game, but 30 and 27. And when I go over to the cruncher, and we take a look more at Nik here, even in the preseason, he got 32, 20, 23, 30. He put up enough. He was getting enough action, man. His usage rate's not going to be extremely high because he's a role player coming off the bench. But he's coming off the bench and he's being aggressive, and his confidence is sky high right now. And with the pace, the way the Portland Trailblazers are playing right now, it just fits right in for him, man, to be in that 3-point range area and bury those threes like he did in Game 1. But he's taking massive. His shots are massive enough for a guy coming off the bench. 16 shots total in the last game against Washington. 10 from the floor, 6 from 3. And then he did some other things that are very, very critical. They bring up the fantasy points. He has 8 total rebounds, 3 assists, and he did have a block as well. And he has the occasional steal as he did in Game 1 and Game 2. So this is a guy that last year only played sporadically. He did play 34 minutes in the last game of that he played last year against Boston. Obviously, ending the season, they really didn't need him much there. But again, against Orlando, not much history. We just got to go by how he's been playing. He's been a little bit of a little bit of a hot guy right now, coming off the bench. I like the matchup. I like the fact that he can get 20 or 25 easily in this game. Again, Orlando has been pretty good this year. Like I said before, 106 points, that's all they've been giving up to their opponents this year. But they have allowed 25.3 fantasy points per game to shooting guards thus far this year. So there is an opportunity for him there. And the only guy that really buried him was Mr. Josh Richardson, who put up 34. So maybe there is a little bit of room here for Mr. Nik Stauskas. Okay, let's move on to small forward. Small forward, obviously, James is in play, always in play. I will probably have him. I'll squeeze him in the lineup. He is 12,000, so you need about 60 from him. He's capable of getting that right now. He's only averaging 51. I'm not on Paul George tonight. Boston is always a team that whoever plays against them, it's just like I'm always a little hesitant to play some of the players. So Paul George, I'm going back to the well, man. Osman did not come through for me last night. He started getting blown out, and he didn't have to play a whole lot of minutes. He only played 24 minutes. He put up 16 fantasy points, 8 and 6. Definitely a downer for me. I expected him to be in the 35-40 range or even better. Maybe he'll have a bounce back game here today. So I am in favor of Mr. Osman. 14.8 points per game, pretty much almost 15 a game, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 28.6 fantasy points, 6,900. You need about 34. And on DK, he is 5,900, which is not too bad at all for a bounce back situation for him. I think he can definitely get you 29-30 today. So we'll see how that pans out. But again, he's like the second scorer on the team. If it's not him that's going off, it's Love. And if it's not Love, it's both of them. They are the guys that are basically going to get most of the touches for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers, man, they're going to struggle this year. Obviously, with LeBron James, they were a better team, but that's just the way it is. LeBron James could make a team that much better just with his presence, and that was the case here last year as well with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Osman, 12. He took 14 shots yesterday. He did miss the 2 from 3, and he was definitely off. So, his shooting percentage was terrible yesterday. And when you don't start burying shots, that's going to be a long night for one of your main shooters, because he is definitely, like I said, he is an integral part of this offense. Him and Kevin Love need to produce on a regular basis. I really do think that he has a chance to bounce back here tonight. They're going up against Detroit. Detroit, against small forwards thus far this year, 32.5 fantasy points per game. Did give up 35 to Justin Holiday, okay? And we got a kid here that going to take a lot more shots than Justin Holiday, and is a very big part of the offensive for this team. They give up 33 to Mr. Covington and 28 to Joe Harris of the Brooklyn Nets. So there is definitely room for Osman to do well against this team here tonight. So I definitely like Mr. Osman. When it comes to value, I'll be honest with you, I'm just going to stay right in the crunch. When it comes to value, I kind of like these 4 guys right down here. So any one of these guys here, to be honest with you, Jonathan Simmons, he's 3,900. You got Harkless, he's also at 3,800. Lance Stevenson had a monster game last night, but you know him, he's capable of going up and down any given day. Lance Stevenson is 3,900. It's going to be probably people that are going to be on him more tonight, so maybe he may be someone to fade, or maybe you just ride him for 3,900. If he happens to be a bust, he'll be the lowest score, and they'll bump that score out. So it's not a big deal. I think it's not it's a win-win situation if you look at it that way. So you could go with Stevenson, and then you could pay up a little bit more. And Evan Turner is not a bad player, 4,600. So as far as value, I'm gonna have some exposure to each one of these guys, and at least a lineup. I don't really am fond of anybody down here, other than, like I said, Osman at the top, and maybe even LeBron James as the top studs. That's for me, Let's go to power forward. So that's pretty much that. At power forward today, I am loving Blake Griffin. And why wouldn't I? Now, I am a big Jokic fan. Everybody knows that. Whoever's been watching me since I started the channel back when I was doing NBA late last year, my man is Jokic, man. I think he's one of the best centers in the league. I think at 10,300, I'm gonna have some exposure to him. I'm not gonna lie to my viewers. I can't go over every player here, but Jokic is definitely in a fine situation going up against the Lakers. I'm sure he should be able to get 50 or better in this matchup, but you gotta save $900 and give it a shot with Blake Griffin. He's been he's in another planet right now. I mean, 9,200 for Blake Griffin. You only need 41. You need 46 points from him in this matchup, and he's averaging nearly 60. And he's 9,600 on DK. He's actually $400 more expensive on DK. All right, so he's in a fine spot here. 36 points from the floor per game over the first 3 games. 11 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 60 pretty much fantasy points a game. He has been incredible. He put up 77 against Philly the other day. 44 minutes, 50 points from the floor, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block. Only 1 turnover. If you turn over the ball only 1, he's only had 2 turnovers in 3 games. He's been very, very good this year. And he's healthy, and he is showing it that he means business. And when you have somebody just playing this well, you gotta ride him until somebody neutralizes him. And I don't think it's gonna happen tonight. Cleveland, all right, has been giving up the 5th most points to opposition this year with 120.5 points per game, which I believe I mentioned earlier. Against power forwards, the power forwards are only scoring 17.9 fantasy points against Cleveland this year because they haven't faced anybody like Blake Griffin yet, and that's going to end tonight. They only face Siakam, Gibson, and Jared Dudley. And Taj Gibson had the best game with 23 points. The other 2 guys under 20 points, fantasy points. Blake Griffin is coming in here. This is the strength of Detroit, is Blake Griffin and Andrew Drummond in the front. You can actually team stack these 2 guys, and you should be okay tonight. But Drummond being 10,000 and change, and then you're going to take 9,000 more and pay for Blake it's a little tough. When I see them two together like that in a small slate like that, I'd rather just take one or the other. And because Blake has just been incredibly on fire, you have to take Blake Griffin in this matchup and beat up on Kevin Love. So Blake Griffin is definitely in play for me today. I don't think I even have to go any further on that. As far as value, I ain't going to even go to the cruncher for that. On value, there's two guys I kind of like. Aminu comes into play here against Orlando. We know that he's a big part of the front court help as far as rebounding for the Portland Trailblazers. So he's going to be on the court and he's going to get massive minutes. He got massive minutes so far to start the year, 26, 29, and 35. He's averaging 10 points a game, 9 rebounds, 23.6 fantasy points at 5,400. You pretty much need 27 from him. And on DK, he's 5,000 on the nose. You need 25. And as you can see, he got 35 in the last game, and he's averaging 20, pretty much 24. So it's around the ballpark. This is a fair price for him. Now the whole idea is, does he have enough of an upside? Well, he can get you 35, and we know that he's going to get the minutes. We go over to him over here, Aminu. And against Orlando, last year he played 27. He got a 27 spot, was priced about the same, and he got 27 in 29 minutes. Took 9 shots from the floor and 5 from 3. Put up 15 floor points. But we need him to defend and get more rebounds. Now, if he's able to do that, he'll be a fine play at 5,400 here. Going up against Orlando. Again, Orlando only against power forwards. They've been doing well with everybody, but they haven't played a whole lot of good power forwards. Not to say that Aminu is a stud, is one of the top tier power forwards. He's not, but for this team, he's a very important role because of the rebounding skills he has. But power forwards only 19.2 fantasy points per game thus far this year, and the only one that had a great game against them, Orlando that is Mr. Saric of the Philadelphia 76ers, who put up a 35 spot on them. But I think Aminu has a chance. I don't expect him to get 35. I would not be surprised if he does. I would prefer that because I'm definitely going to put him in some of my lineups. But if he can get 30 or high 20s, I'll be very happy for that price. All right, very happy. My next guy that I'm going to definitely have some exposure to is Trey Lyles. And just to throw you guys another guy. Trey Lyles, 7.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, nearly 5 rebounds a game, nearly two assists a game, 16.6 fantasy points per game at 4,400. You pretty much need 22 there, and he's 4,600, $200 more expensive on DK, so you need 23 there. But 22 to 23, even though that's higher than what he's averaging, he has been putting that 22 on average over the course of the last 2 games, so I can see where Fanduel and DraftKings feel that he's going to get 22, and he has upside. He's capable of getting you 30 plus. He's capable of getting you 30 plus. As you can see here, he was able to do that during the preseason last year, 30. I've seen him get as high as 40 in some games, 23. There he goes, 37, 31, 34, 32, 31. So you get the picture. 41. He is capable of getting in the 30s, and that's what we want to see for 4,400. He'll pay off value and exceed it if he can give us 25, 26. But I could see him getting close to 30, and he had pretty much a 30 and a half average as far as fantasy points last year versus the Lakers. Obviously, the Lakers are not the same team in some areas, but nonetheless, he did fairly well, 20 to 21 minutes, and that's pretty much where he's at right now. If he could get 20 to 25 minutes today, especially if the game gets out of hand, let's say the Lakers with that pace really starts extending this, gets a big lead on these guys, then I can see where Lyles will get more time on the court, and he'll be able to play and be able to get the minutes, more minutes where he will be able to transfer that into some fantasy points. So Trey Lyles is definitely a fine play for me as well, someone I'm definitely going to consider. When we go to centers, Andrew Drummond is in play, guys. No doubt about it at 9,500. But like I said, I'm all over. In my case, I'm going to try to pair them together in at least 1 or 2 lineups on DK as well as on FanDuel. I don't see no reason why not. But as far as giving that to my viewers, I could definitely advise that. That's one strategy you can go, considering that's the strong point for Detroit is their front court with those 2 gentlemen. But today I'm more in favor of just playing Blake Griffin. To free up more money to do stuff like this, like take Mr. Vukovic here, which is my stud center for today. I mean, this guy has just been improving every year. He's just getting better and better. Vukovic, 18.8 points per game from the floor, 10.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 44.4 fantasy points per game. His price here is 8,200. At 8,200, you only need 41. 41. That's below what he's averaging. So that alone just triggers me to, hey, you know what? Let me take a little closer look at Mr. Vukovic and this matchup. All right. On DK, he's 7,800, man. He is a great price. He is just too cheap on both platforms. This guy was averaging, as far as price, as high as in the 8,000s last year. Matter of fact, we'll go right to the cruncher, and I'll show you that. Vukovic. So far this year, 82 and 79 the last 2 games. But you can see late last year, 85, 8,500, even as high as 9,000, 9,300, 9,400. He is too cheap at 8,200. We can wait. We can play him until we see that price get in the 9,000 range. From here to then, you got to consider him, especially if the matchup is right. And he's in a good position here. So just with that, and then just seeing his usage rate, his minutes, and then the amount of shots he's taken, 18 from the floor, 2 from 3. He could shoot the 3 and hit it. He hit 50% here. He went a whole 100% in the game prior to that. 4 threes and hit all 4. 10 of 15 from the floor. His field goal percentage is outstanding. And he does all the other things too. He gets dirty. He gets rebounds. 12, 13, back-to-back. Look at this. 12 assists here. He had a triple-double 2 games ago against Philly. And he goes and he defends. 3 steals, 2 steals. I mean, in the occasional game, he'll get the 4 blocks. And then look at the beauty of it. A big man that does not foul. This guy barely gets into foul trouble. A solid play. Too cheap for Mr. Vukovic. He is definitely, hands down, my favorite player center today. Portland versus centers have been very, very stingy, only giving up 14.3 fantasy points per game over the course of those 3 games. And the one guy that had a good game against them was JaVale McGee, who put up 35 on them, 36 on them. But they haven't faced anybody else that is just that good. And they're going to see that tonight with Mr. Vukovic. So definitely love Mr. Vukovic here. And then my value at center is going to be Mason Plumlee for Denver. 4,000 at 20. At 4,000, you need 20. He's 3,900 on DK, so you only need 19. So 19 to 20, and he's pretty much in that range already on average. So if he just gets a few more minutes, a couple more rebounds, maybe a block shot or a steal, he automatically exceeds value for us, and he'll pay that off easily. 7 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, nearly 5 a game, 1.5 assists. Played 20 minutes in the last game, 11.7 rebounds. I can see almost a double-double here. If he gets anywhere near that, he's going to get 25 to 30, and he's going to exceed value. We know he's capable of getting those kind of numbers. He played well last year. A number of times last year, he exceeded that. If we go through here, 22, 20, 21, 28, 30. I mean, he's gotten up in the high 30s before, 32, 34. He's had those moments, even 40 here. So we know that he is capable of getting it done. So Mason Plumlee going up against the Lakers, giving up 127 points per game to the opposition. Versus centers, the Lakers have struggled. 43.8 points per game, fantasy points per game, given up to centers this year, thus far after 3 games. They gave Anton last night of the Phoenix Suns 48. The rookie scored 48.7 fantasy points. LaMarcus Aldridge 61.5. Clint Capella 34. And Nurkic of the Portland Trailblazers put up 30. So there's definitely some room for Mason Plumlee to get at least 20 to 25 and at least make that price or exceed it. I think he's going to be able to exceed it as long as he gets 20 minutes or more on the floor. There's a possibility if the game gets a little out of hand, I could see him playing some more minutes as well, which will benefit us as fantasy players. And that's basically it. Those are my plays for today, man. That's where I'm at. Those are my stud 5 and my value 5 guys. I hope you like, man. Drop a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, like I said before, it's first time here. Hey, you know what? I drop a video pretty much for any 2 games or better NBA. I won't do videos for 1 game slates. And of course, I do the NFL every single week as well with those videos. The quarterback and all the position videos will be coming up over the course of today and tomorrow. So be on the lookout for those things. Again, subscribe down below, share the video with others, and at the same time, make sure you put on those post notifications on. This way you don't miss out on any of the NFL or NBA videos, all right? With that, I wish you guys luck tonight, and I'll see you guys on the next NBA video.